Got to put up the first comment, of course.
Still don't
These are
understand
important
how
things.
that got started. Hey guys,
What do you
welcome
mean? It
to.
was a band.
But why that has anything to do with us?
No, it never does.
Okay, thanks for making my intro so awesome. Hey guys.
I messed that up, huh? We can edit that out.
Okay. Hey guys, times 3. Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. I feel like we should say our names in this more. I mean, obviously you found our page, but I don't know. I'm Melissa.
This is Joe Fallon from Theportcitypythons and Melissa Davis.
Okay. Tonight is our second to last episode of the year.
What?
I know.
So we are going to take off. What does it end up? It ends up being the 23rd.
And the 30th.
Yes, and the 30th is my birthday, and the 23rd is the eve of Jesus's birthday.
No, lies, but let's not get into that.
I don't know. Semantics.
No, truths.
Oh.
Well, whatever. Sorry.
Wow, we're polarizing the audience right now.
Other things to talk about our podcast. So obviously it is cold out and we are not shipping any snakes right now, but we are selling t-shirts as always. And if we do our job and get our Maryland reptile thing, again, we will be at the Baltimore Repticon in the middle of January. Also, yes. I realized we never said how awesome the Gettysburg show was for being its first show. We got in there, we had ample amount of space. The lighting was great. They definitely got so many people through the door for our first show. They gave the vendors free pizza, and they came and checked to make sure everyone was okay. So obviously I'm super late to saying that because it was a month ago now, but just want to make sure I got that out there.
No vegan options for the pizza.
Snake people, vegans. Don't know.
No, yeah.
How much
so we
that
didn't have
is, that often, but shoot, what was I ready to say? I guess that's it for us, right?
Yeah, and there's a big balloon bearded dragon at the show. I feel like I need to say that. I don't know why.
Okay.
But there's also hotels and stuff like that, and I think that's why a lot of vendors liked it. It was really nice to just get out there and go to a show that's not very far away from Philly, but very much outside of our realm, our normal realm.
Okay.
So that was our first time being at Gettysburg. Other than that, PortCityPythons.com if you want to check out the merch and stuff that we have available.
Yes. Also send us your stickers if you want to be featured in the video version of these podcasts, unless you're Austin and you only get half because Joe cut you off.
Sorry, Austin. But we also have Tom, who we saw at the Gettysburg show.
Yes, he's up there. He was right behind us. Okay.
So today's guest.
Why do you gotta get so announcery?
Because I like doing that. It's suspense. So you may have seen him playing with all types of crazy animals, whether it be wolves, raccoons, reptiles, kind of all sorts of animals. Today's guest is Toney Seiler. And Toney, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So can you get us started in kind of how you got started and what made you get into the love for animals in general?
Yeah. So I've always loved animals growing up. My parents were pretty normal, having only dogs and cats, but I've always wanted more. So getting out on my own into college and everything, I got to buy my first snake. It was a little baby corn snake, and that's really spiraled me into the animal world. So I am 9 years reptile owners. I have been working with wolves for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years next month. These gray wolves at a facility. And for just over about a year now, I have been other exotic animals like the raccoons you mentioned. Let's say bobcat, and we got groundhogs, we got native species and exotic species. So pretty well-rounded and everything. So it's a lot of fun.
Where do you live?
I am located in Louisville, Kentucky right now. My hometown is in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. Oh, shout out Ryan Cox in the chat from Louisville as well.
There. Oh, there you go. Definitely.
Yeah. So what kind of drew you to wolves? I mean, there must be an awesome facility there.
Yes. So, like I said, I've grown up liking animals of all sorts, but the ones I've always been really, connected to are the misunderstood animals. So anything from wolves or sharks or snakes or spiders, all the ones that Hollywood demonizes and makes monster movies out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've always liked wolves in general. I've always loved dogs. I'm a big dog person. So wolves have always been a real big thing for me. So about 6 years ago, I actually went to this facility, and you can actually go in and interact for a donation, which covers the cost of the food. And then I did that twice, and the second time there, I'm like, I have to be a part of this. So I grabbed a volunteer application. I've been educating about gray wolf conservation ever since.
Okay, so
Wait.
interacting with a wolf
Yes.
and going from loving dogs to interacting with a wolf, I feel like there's like a step in between where you need to know the ropes.
Well, I'm also like, do they just let anyone come in there? And
Definitely.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
You as a guest, you can come to our facility. You would interact with people-friendly wolves that we have actually bred, born, and raised ourselves. We don't breed them countlessly. We do it every 3 to 5 years, but as a interaction, as socialization and bottle feeding, people-friendly, meaning they're not like going to be aggressive, but they're just not going to run away from you, because that's what wolves do in general. Is they're terrified of people and they run away. So these wolves actually like attention, because they want their butt scratches, they want their tummies rubbed, all that stuff like a normal dog would, because they like it.
Are there any precautions that you have to take with a wolf that you don't have to take with a dog?
You,
I feel like that's
definitely
a dumb question.
come to you. We educate everybody that comes there to we tell you the ropes, basically ground rules and regulations about it. There's a waiver you sign. We're definitely monitored by the USDA, Fish and Wildlife, all these acronym places for safety and conservation and humane work with these animals, and that we're not like breeding and selling on the radar, which we don't do. So we're heavily monitored. So there's a waiver that you write down or you sign and read, and it sounds a lot scarier than it really is, but these animals are very, very friendly. And otherwise, I mean, there's two of us volunteers that lead the interactions anyway, and we know these wolves, so we know what if they are getting like a little angsty or if they're getting a little grumpy. We know what to do. So there's never a problem.
And so what is a typical day as far as like an interaction? How does that go from your perspective?
From my perspective, ever since the wolves that our youngest wolves that we have, I guess now, are 3 years of age. So we got really popular over 3 years ago when they were all born. Everybody wants to pet a wolf puppy. That was the biggest thing, and we had more than we planned, accidentally. So we expected 4 to 7, pretty normal in a litter. We had 2 litters. One was 9 and one was 11.
Wow.
So there was 20 babies born within 5 days of each other, and
And do they have a similar lifespan to say like dogs?
Are you just gonna compare
Right,
them to
everyone?
dogs? Is
Yes,
all your
'cause that's
question
all I
gonna
have.
be
That's my basic
this to
knowledge.
dogs?
I have a dog.
You would say they're probably same size or same lifespan as like a large dog breed. In the wild, it's anywhere between 3 and 7. 7 being a really old lucky wolf. We can double that in captivity. Most of the wolves get between 10 and 13.
But that is an old breeding wolf then, or pair.
Yes, that is. And one of our males was 11 at the time, and he's like, "I'll continue my bloodline now." We're like, "Oh, great."
Well, I guess the males are typically the confident ones in all species, kind of across the board, as far as or competently breeding age longer.
Okay.
Fertile longer. Is that what I meant?
You'd be surprised. Actually, the female alpha is the one that actually has all the rules.
Really?
Yeah. And she's the alpha. So we like to joke around that the alpha male controls the pack, but the alpha female controls the alpha male. So
Okay.
one up for the ladies there.
And how does that work out in captivity between having a pack?
It is heavily based on personality. So you don't have to be the biggest and strongest wolf to be the alpha. It's usually the smartest one, or the one that just has a very dominating mentality over others that might be a little more submissive or friendly, for lack of a better term. And we don't have any more than maybe 4 in a pack. In one of our larger areas, we have smaller areas that are just like doubles, so they're both an alpha because it's the only 2 in there. There's no lone wolves at all. We always have them with their mate or their partner. So
So if
And
they're
so,
always,
go ahead.
oh, sorry,
No,
you
go
go,
ahead.
keep going. If they're always together, how do you and you said earlier that you only breed every 3 to 5 years. How are you controlling that breeding?
Right. We do control breeding by spaying females and just vasectomizing males. We do not fully neuter males because they still have to produce testosterone to be of worth to the females. Otherwise, they get in the wild they'd be kicked out or pushed down in the hierarchy. So, and another male that can actually produce would be able to one to take that alpha role.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
how are you determining like when to? Are you doing that after they breed, and then the next 3 years will be someone else, or how are you determining when to do that?
Yeah. So we do have like a planned breeding pairs here and there. Right now, we don't want any babies. We're at capacity. So the ones that are intact are not with each other at all. Um, we can always, if it's like the doubles, we can always exchange the females or the males with each other. Female and a male always generally get along. Um, Two females are okay. Maybe one will take over the alpha role, but two males will, if they have that alpha mentality, they're gonna fight, and it's not gonna be pretty. So we generally definitely watch how they are, but we control them like every year. Make sure there's nobody intact with each other at the time. And right now, there's nobody intact and nobody can breed.
Okay.
And what is it like taking care of babies? Is there anything special that you have to do? Have you been around for that?
I have actually right when I started, it was about 4 months in when the pups were all born, and I got to help bottle feed. We call them little wolf cubs. They look like little fuzzy bears when they're born, little short little snouts and everything. And you talk about puppy breath for dogs, it's like 10 times worse for wolves. It's the nastiest smell ever. But it's adorable. I mean, it's a lot of work. I was not a full-time bottle feeder. So I know the more experienced bottle feeders basically you feed every 2 hours and you clean them every 4 hours after they use the bathroom. So it's exhausting, but it's definitely worth it.
Wow.
And is there like a commercially available, mixture for zoos or something that you're feeding them in the bottle?
Oh, yes. So we actually work with a few other facilities across the United States. We do breed and we'll donate a litter here and there. We've done that several times in the past. One of the recent ones was to Wolf Hollow in Ipswich, Massachusetts. But we work with Wolf Park, which is in northern Indiana. So they do conservation education and they actually do a reintroduction into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So they're doing a lot. But we worked with them, Purdue University, and their students in the animal sciences degrees actually for one of their thesis actually created a formula for us to use for our wolf pups. So I couldn't tell you what the ingredients bad, but it's a bunch of milk and some meat stuff, and yeah, I don't even know.
Have you ever tasted it?
I've not tasted that one. No.
I don't know.
That one. You notice he said
Yeah.
that one.
So you've tasted some other ones.
I have. So we did use a different formula for because I forget exactly what they called it. It's like the form that you get from the store. We used that just for a little bit when we ran out, and I mean I've tasted that one. That's what you use for puppies. I couldn't remember the brand offhand. I've given their worming medication, which is an oral, and I've had one of the wolves sneeze it back out of their mouth into my mouth. It's like bananas, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's disgusting.
Yeah. We get a whole bunch of stuff all over us when we interact and we play with our wolves. So
Are they they messy, or do they drool?
they don't drool, no. In the summertime, they might look like they're drooling a lot because they can only sweat through their nose and mouth. They can't sweat even like dogs can when they have the oil glands, which gives dogs that wet dog smell. Wolves don't get that, so they can't even like release any heat from their actual body. It's all through their nose and mouth. So
Does that give you any problems in the summertime?
they're just a lot more lethargic. Unfortunately, that's when most people want to come out and see the wolves because it feels good for us, right? But I mean, these wolves, if it gets above 85, 90 degrees, we don't even open because it's not fair to our animals. it's too hot. So,
Is there some type of like indoor area that they can cool down, or some type of area that they cool down in?
unfortunately, not. We are a nonprofit, so we do get donations. I would say 95% of it goes back to food, just to feed. We do have
Okay.
40 wolves and 3 foxes, and there's a lot of mouths to eat or feed. So it's a lot of money goes just to their feeding and well-being. But we do like fill in. We got these big tubs. We flip in the wintertime, so it's like a stage, but we flip them back over and we fill them up with water. So that'll be like their pool. So they jump in there often to cool down. And we'll give them like big chunks of ice to, with a hint of Kool-Aid or something to for them to live every day. So.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so is that
so
really
cute.
like a thing to entice them?
Yeah.
You need like
love
something
Who doesn't
sugary?
like Kool-Aid.
just a little bit. Yep, just a little hint of Kool-Aid.
Everybody loves Kool-Aid.
Everybody.
Everything. Mother Nature.
So, and I kind of want to bring it back just for a second. It's like the nursing, will the pups ever take to the mother, or is it always going to be you bottle feeding?
Just because of how we work now, we want them to be socialized by us, so they are, like I said, people friendly. Again, not aggressive to people, but they'll come up to us. So that's mainly for veterinarian purposes, so our vets can see them if need be, but also that we can do these interactions. Hopefully, we'll want to do we want to have more packs, or bigger packs eventually in the future, so more people can see more wolves and stuff. If we let the mothers raise them themselves, then the wolves, they basically stay wolf. They don't really they don't go people friendly. If we go into their enclosure, they'll be on the opposite enclosure the entire time. They won't come up to us then. So that's why we do it.
And as far as like socialization, where does that put you as far as when you do produce babies and you have these kind of like hand-raised babies? I mean, what kind of facilities are they sold to, or can they be sold to from there?
We don't sell any wolves offhand, but we'll do the donating to reputable facilities. And we've learned in the past there's a lot of non-reputable places out there, and people or places that will say they're a sanctuary, but they're really just keeping them in their house, stuff like that. That's happened before with us. There's been an actual zoo that has taken 2 of our wolves before, and they bred the female every single year since, and that female's 7. So we're just like, never gonna work with you again. But what can you do? You can't really do much about it. So
now in the wild, I'm assuming that those females are breeding every year.
In the wild,
yeah,
the alpha female will, and that's she's the only one that breeds. The other females are either subordinates. So you got the alphas. There's the alpha pair, and then you got betas, subordinate wolves, and then you got omegas in a pack. So the alpha female and the alpha male are the only 2 that actually breed, because they're going to be the strongest, the smartest wolves potentially. The other ones all help with hunts, and then the omegas, the females that don't go out and hunt. After the alpha female actually runs out of milk within 9 to 12 days or so, the omega females actually lactate, and they raise the pups from then on.
What? So they have the ability to lactate without having produced animals.
Yep.
But only the omegas.
Only the omegas. Technically, some of the beta females might do it too, but there's the ones that are going to be more on the round for the hunts.
That's so interesting. I want to know the science behind. Like in my head, you can only lactate, when you.
Well, it's like our mice. I guess you don't see the breeding mice so much because you're so freaked out by them. But one female lays, and then I typically have like 3 females in there. Then the other 2 will come and nurse with that female, and they'll all take care of it together. So I think that happens with mammals. I think even
that's the only
if
kind
2
thing
females
about
are
mice.
too close, and they sync
they
up.
eat each other.
No, I
mice
don't know.
Talk about or like a mom eating her kids or stuff.
Yeah, she can do that too.
Yeah, so okay, they got both sides. They'll help each other feed and then eat them. Okay.
Rodents do. Wolves don't.
So how early into their life, like, can you guys get a sense of like who you think's gonna be the omega, who you think's gonna be that alpha?
Or does it matter? Do you even let that sort itself out?
I mean, right. Not that it matters, but I'm just saying, like, do you guys have an idea?
Yeah, definitely. So when all the pups, we had, let's say, this round of basically, we had 20, one passed away a day or two after birth. That happens. One we donated to a facility out in California, Apex Protection Project. But the original 18, we had them all in one of our larger enclosures. And what we would do to kind of figure that out, who would be alphas to omegas and whatnot, is when we do feed, we do get deer from hunters. So we'll actually take and we process it. So big 5-gallon bucket full of deer meat, basically. So we slide that out and put it on the ground. And then we watch which, and these are even pups. So when the wolves are even puppies, they'll even fight each other off for who gets what meat first. And the ones that fight the others off and the ones will be the alphas primarily. And then the ones that kind of, hide off in weights are going to be lower in the totem pole, the omegas. So you can see that within 4 months of life.
And is that important to how you, as a keeper, can manipulate the herd to do what you want it to do?
Yeah, it is. Just because we don't want to have a whole group of like omegas and then a whole group of alphas, because those alpha wolves are going to be a little more problematic. There'll be more bickering in their pack as they grow, more on each other. And so we just wanted to make it all even. So we have, the hierarchies set, because when the hierarchies are set and they're good, then, all is happy.
And what is on the wolf department? What that sounds stupid.
You're fine.
I don't know why I said department. Oh my god. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. So when it comes to wolves, are people usually tentative when they're coming up to these experiences?
Oh, we have people all across the board. There's a lot of people that like wolves in the world, and then there's a lot who have grown up. And I'm not trying to be like the younger generation versus older generation, but a lot of the ones that seem more hesitant with the interaction or coming to see these animals seem to be older generations, just because of they grew up maybe hating these animals if they come from areas where these are present in the wild, or movies and such. Like, what was that one with Liam Neeson? The Gray. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but that's entirely wrong with what wolves do.
Isn't the Reverend with a wolf too? He's out in the snow. I don't know. Never mind. Keep going.
Air. Yeah. But like the younger generations are a little more open with, acknowledging that these animals are they're family units. They just want to survive. They're highly intelligent. And people that are younger seem to be more apt to be like, oh my God, they're adorable. I want to see them. So that's always really nice to see.
And how do you, because obviously these are still wolves. How do you get a point like the cross that you can't, it's still a wolf and you can't, like, out in the wild, these are crazy apex predators.
Yeah.
How do you build that respect and at the same time have like them cuddling with them and playing with them?
We definitely explained that these wolves are not like the ones you find in the wild. These ones had been born and raised in human captive care. So they were bottle fed by us. We are their caregivers. We are like really cool brothers and sisters. I don't know. We're not like mom. They don't see us as part of their pack still. We're like the cool neighbors that come to see them every once in a while. But like in the wild, wolves in general, they're very elusive animals. They can smell us 2 miles away, and they turn tail and go the other direction. These guys, you say apex predators. Technically, we are the apex predators to them. And they know, and they fear that. So that's why they stay away from us.
And just the natural range of the wolf, where is it now as far as the conservation efforts and everything going on? And then what was the range historically? Do you know?
Historically, yes, there were wolves in 49 out of the 50 states. There were no Hawaiian wolves. But Yeah, wolves are found in all 49 or 40 contiguous. Alaska still has the largest population of wolves up there. I can't give you direct numbers because they always dwindle and they're elusive,
Fluctuating.
right? Yeah, they're fluctuating all the time. Range right now, Upper Peninsula, all the states all across the northern that border Canada, they go in and out of their states, and then they're protected in Yellowstone and Yosemite and the surrounding states, all the way down to even they've been seen in Northern California too.
Wow.
So Northern California, Northern Nevada, and kind of like up into Montana, like take that angle. But yeah, they were everywhere before.
Florida wouldn't have been too hot.
There are subspecies of wolves that were better in heat than the ones that you would primarily think about. There are the Mexican gray wolves. They're a lot smaller. Their fur coats weren't as thick, and they were mainly the ones that you'd see. They were in Central America as well as Texas. They kind of dwindled over in Mississippi and Alabama, and they went kind of in the desert areas of Arizona and whatnot. And I mean, they went all the way to Florida. Yeah, there were wolves everywhere. Now they were probably shot out, way before other areas, especially like for the tri-state area from me, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. There hasn't been a wild wolf in the wild for over 100 years now.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And was that just hunting? I mean, is it possible for us to literally just hunt something to almost extinction like that?
Yeah. So in the early 1900s, there was the big push for the cattle industry, and they pushed west, right, into the Mississippi Valley and farther west. So there was a big tag in the late 1800s to early 1900s to get as many wolf pelts as you could. You can get as many as you want. So that wiped out, I would say, about 85 to 90% of the wild gray wolf population in the United States by about 1930 or so. They were basically hunted into the woodlands and the mountains of like the Rockies, basically. So it was a hard push.
And basically the same people who drove the bison to extinction or the buffalo, near extinction.
Yeah, pretty much. Those smaller animals were able to, since those wolves, those apex predators, were kind of out of the equation. A lot of those smaller mammals really took to the breeding and everything. So raccoons proliferated. Coyotes were actually desert. They were desert canines. They were not seen around in, I guess, the Midwest, in the eastern board and everything up until the early 1900s. So.
Just because we're talking about it,
you
just talked about, yeah.
I didn't know you did that. That's cool. But yeah, so like it's like coyotes were primarily found in Utah, Arizona, Southern California, Nevada. But with the gray wolves hunted out, they were able to reproduce, and they are, like you said, they're very invasive, and they're everywhere. They're overpopulated.
So we have a couple questions in the chat building up. I want to get to those.
Yes, go for it.
But don't let us forget our questions that I know. I have like 6 in my brain that I'm also trying not to forget.
Go ahead.
But the first question in the chat is kind of like your personal opinion. Mm-hmm. Dang it, and now I can't find it.
Personal opinions, aren't those fun?
Well, and you can definitely say no if it's too personal opinion, but here it is. So Darren asks, how does he feel about hybrids being sold as pets, like the wolf dog hybrids?
Right. That's a good question. Personal opinion, I see. This is why our facility started. 22 years ago, the owners of Wolf Creek Habitat, they started rescuing hybrids from shelters that their shelters were otherwise going to euthanize these wolf dog hybrids because they are extremely unpredictable animals. So hybridization in the genetic world creates a bigger, stronger, faster animal, prettier if you're thinking birds and fish. So we do have one wolf dog hybrid. He is our last one because we are unable to keep them anymore, which is fine because wolves are a lot easier. He actually is a good wolf dog. You might get bad ones, you might get good ones. Now, personal ownership, do your research. I mean, I know people that done their research have wolf dog owner or have wolf dogs as pets, and they're doing everything right. They're keeping them outdoors. Their fences are 8 feet tall. They feed them raw meats. These guys, they can't get the normal canine food that you get at the store because they're half wolf. You don't digest all the extra grains and soy and byproducts that are in a lot of dog food, unfortunately. But then I see some people who keep them inside of their apartments, and they're wondering, oh, my wolf dog just ate my table again. I'm like, well, that's why do you have them in your apartment? That's not good. So it's really, you need the spacing, you need the correct diet, and they're not going to be easy. They are not easy animals. They're bigger than wolves are, and I mean, they could be the same size or bigger. And you can't just have one because these guys, they're pack animals. They need a buddy 24/7. If you're not going to be that buddy to them, aka, well, you probably have to work, right? So you're not going to be with them all the time. So, of course, when people get these and they're tearing up their house and everything, and they're like, why is this happening? I need to get rid of it. We're like, well, if you get another one, they won't be tearing it up as much. But it still could happen. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's not what I would want.
Yeah. Just get yourself a husky. Get yourself incredibly difficult anyway. A Malamute, a Northern Inuit, like the dogs in Game of Thrones. Get yourself dogs.
There's a lot of other options, basically.
There's a lot of other options.
Yeah, for sure. And we also had another question from the chat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's kind of a question. Do they howl, or at certain moments, like the full, do they howl a lot? And obviously society tells us, oh, wolves howl at the moon.
Right. They do howl a lot. There are times where us volunteers will be doing an event. So it's like an all weekend thing. So we'll camp out. Right. And we don't sleep. They howl like every 2 hours. They howl. So wolves are crepuscular. They're most active during dawn and dusk, and they actually evolved following deer species like moose, elk, bison. Those are also dawn and dusk. So at night, you'd think that they'd sleep. Right now, they'll sleep for like 2 hours, and then they'll get up and be all howling. So that's basically what we sleep. So wolves don't howl at the full moon. That is a common myth. That was basically a white settlers myth when the white man was going into the Northern Americas, at the time, we were still able to work at night during a full moon because it's still really bright, very little light pollution in the 1600s, whenever that was. So we were able to work at night, and you might hear the wolves howling. So they just put it together. It's not like they howl at the full moon. I mean, there's a full moon, they're howling. Okay. But they'll howl for mainly to find each other after a hunt. If they get scattered around, their hunting grounds when they're hunting season or something, they could be 4 to 5 miles away from each other at that point. They're like, well, where's everybody? Hello. That's what howling is. They'll celebrate puppies. They'll ward off other packs or other potential threats like bears or humans. They howl at different pitches, so it sounds like there's more than X amount of wolves that are actually there, which is kind of cool. So like 5 wolves will howl at different pitches, and it makes it sound like there's 20.
Wow.
And then they'll howl to actually mourn the death of pack members too. So, and I've actually personally heard that, and that was literally the saddest sound I've ever heard in my life.
Their howls are different depending on
different pitches. And you can like feel it. It's really crazy.
And are you in a rural area or?
For where the facility is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rural.
I would think like people having wolves howling in their backyard all the time.
There are neighbors, yeah, but all the neighbors know it. All the neighbors really enjoy it and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The next chat question was from KB's An Amazing House. Can you guys provide a small snapshot of a financial commitment when dealing with the wolf project?
Ooh. Like what the cost would be to do like a wolf sanctuary?
I don't know. That's what I'm assuming he's talking about.
Yeah, that's hard. It seems like there's a lot of factors that would be involved.
That go into it.
Very expensive.
I would assume very expensive.
Yeah. So like I said, just for general thought. The donation. So if you were a person coming to see the wolves, the donation, the fee donation, because we're nonprofits, we have to say donation, is $50, but you get to see a dozen wolves, and it takes about an hour to get through it all. And it covers the cost of just their food. So and we'll get maybe on a good weekend, maybe 100 people through Saturday and Sundays, because the only time we're open to the public. And just, I guess, take that money. But then you have to also think of financially maintenance for the enclosures. So wolves are very destructive. They like to eat fences, and we sometimes have to replace these fences. There is, thankfully, we're actually on a creek. So we actually pump water from the creek and lightly filter it just to get parasitic stuff out. And then that's the running water. So that's actually at least very helpful. But and, like, we have a gift shop and stuff, but I mean, we've been around for 22 years financially. I've only been around for 4 years. So I can barely even scratch the surface of the financials that we put into the actual facility. I know it's a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it just like amazes me how a nonprofit. I mean, it's hard enough to run a business for profit, but when it comes to being a nonprofit and having to deal with everything and with the animals on top of it, it's just it's wild. And this thing that people can get like a once in a lifetime experience for a pretty small fee, and it also goes to help feed the wolves. Is pretty awesome.
Definitely.
And I know James Lewis in the chat was asking a bunch about which species of wolves. Is it a gray wolf? Is it a red wolf? What are you working with?
So all of our animals are gray wolves. They are a mixed subspecies of Arctic and timber gray wolves. So they're some of the larger subspecies of the gray wolf that you'll find in the world.
So what is the difference between an Arctic and a timber wolf?
Geographically, those two subspecies would never find each other. You'll get so the timber wolves are primarily the wolves that you'll find out west of Yellowstone. In the latitude, that is where they're found. Now, if you go farther north, in Canada, you'll get still timber wolves, but the farther up in Canada you'll find maybe more of the Arctic wolves, starting when you're getting into more of the tundra areas. You know, you're leaving the forest. They're big frosted areas of land where there's not a lot of trees. Farther north, then you'll find the tundra wolves too. So they're all gray wolves, but depending on where they're found, are different subspecies. Like I said, the Mexican gray wolves earlier, they were found a lot farther south. They were smaller fur coat, not as large fur coat, but the farther north, the bigger the wolves are, the bigger their coats are.
And so the timber wolf, was that the one that pretty much inhabited most of the United States?
Yeah, primarily, yeah. The timber wolves, and then you get the Mexican gray wolves.
Awesome. So
and are there? I'll go for it. There's one more from the chat.
Yes, thank you. And it's Kyle, so you have to. I just noticed his picture. Sorry, that made me laugh. So you've spoken about the difference in wolves we have now versus what we used to have. Like, can you talk? Or he asked, have you spoken about like what has their change been over time? You talked about their range and how that's changed, but like as far as their size and stuff and habits.
So everybody's heard of dire, right? So that was one of the a very popular subspecies of, I guess, gray wolf. I mean, the gray wolf stemmed from them, so you can't really call them a gray wolf because they were their own species technically. But size comparison, those animals were anywhere from 200 to 250 pounds. I mean, that was the age of the large fauna. So those sloths that were back then are the size of Cadillacs or the size of beetles. You have woolly mammoths and the saber-toothed cats, right? Those are all a lot larger than the animals that we have, nowadays in our era. So since the ice ages, when all those animals kind of came about, animals are getting smaller. Though I know that there are, like, our animals that we have at our facility, we have males that reach 150. The females, some of them have reached 110 to 120. But and then we have one of our little runts is like 60 pounds. and she's got attitude to adjust for that. But yeah, I guess that what kind of the question was there.
I think that sounds like to me
Yeah,
what
and
he was
then
talking about.
Darren kind of asked about, say that runt female that you have. I mean, would that girl be at risk of being kicked out of the pack or anything like that?
Yeah, when she was born, she was 1/3 the size of the other pups, and she was like not growing. When she was pushing maybe 10 pounds, her brothers and sisters were pushing 40.
Wow.
So she would not have survived in the wild. Even in our care, we didn't think she was going to survive because she just wasn't growing. She wasn't taking a bottle, so we had to syringe feed her. So we actually had to kind of force the food into her. Um, but like I said, as she finally hit some type of little like spurt where she's like, "Oh, I want to survive," and then became sassy and entitled because we spoiled. Yeah.
And is that something that animal like goes on to just educate for the rest of its life, or what can you do with an animal that starts off? Because as like someone who's looking to breed or something with snakes or reptiles, you get a runt and you're like,
you don't know if they'll create more problems later, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, with her name's Tala. So thankfully with Tala, she is happy and healthy. She's just smaller. But we like to kind of show a comparison of like, there are the runts in the world. You can get runt cats, runt dogs, runt reptiles, right? And it happens. And because of her size and everything, we educate that she would not have made it. It is a pack, but it is a hard world. Because she wouldn't have really given enough to the pack, the mother would have put her aside because she's like, you're not going to be worth it later. It's hard to say, but yeah, it's kind of how it is. You have to be strong. You have to be, willing to survive in the wild for wolves because it's not an easy life.
What do you think's harder, assist feeding a wolf or assist feeding a corn snake?
Well, I'll assist feed corn snakes for now.
Yeah, I'll say snakes are pretty difficult. I've had to do that before, and it wasn't as bad as the wolf.
Yeah, just thinking of the teeth involved.
I don't know.
One's cuter, that's for sure.
One's definitely cuter.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're assist feeding, are they kind of like fighting you the whole time? Like, how does? Yeah.
They do that, and then they'll nervous like poo on you, and you're just like, oh, that's great, and it's just a big old mess, and it's not fun. I mean, you can overpower it, get it in, but like it's not fun. They get real antsy and stuff because they don't know what's going on. They're like, get off my face.
And snakes, I can't formulate my words. In snakes, when there's assist feeding, a lot of times the consequence of that is regurging. Does that happen? I'm assuming that happens with the wolves too.
Yeah, I haven't seen it with our pups, the ones that I worked with and bottle fed, but I'm sure like the others, I mean, that might be a common occurrence. I'm sure they get too much and then it's like, bleh. I mean, that's not unheard of ever in any part of the animal world. So
right. Definitely.
And now I know that wolves have come back in a large part in places like, say, where Kyle lives in Idaho, or like you said before, like a lot of the Rocky Mountains and places that are hard to get to, as well as someone in the chat even said that, now they're having problems with too many wolves in some places in like the Pacific Northwest and stuff. Do you know what they're doing to aiding conservation to keep down populations sometime? And then also, are they bringing new animals in and kind of repopulating other areas?
As far as I know, there are some areas that there are problem wolves, and a lot of those wolves are elderly wolves that have been shunned or kicked out of packs because they're old, they're feeble, and if they would have been like the alpha male beforehand, they stepped down, and now that alpha male is like, you need to leave because you're not helping us out. So a lot of them are lone wolves. A lone wolf does not survive very long, so they do get desperate, and those are the ones that primarily, if leads to disparity, they'll go after cattle stock or something like that. Unfortunately, because it's sometimes easy prey when you have that animal in a pen that they can't escape from, right? So a lone wolf, though, is not going to take out a cow. It's really unheard of just because the cows are 5 times bigger than a wolf is.
Right.
So you more have to watch out for goats. That would be the biggest thing that a wolf would want to get to make it an easier kill, I guess. But wolves don't like to go anywhere near people. So if they smell like a farm, they're gonna smell the humans there, and they're probably not gonna come up. A lot of livestock kills and deaths have been blamed on wolves, but they were either mountain lions, other sized cats, maybe bobcats, or coyotes. Coyotes. Um, Coyotes are one of the canines that do kill for fun. Bobcats kill, cats kill for fun. You know, that's just a general.
Yep.
Wolves don't kill for fun because it takes so much energy to get a kill. They're not going to waste it. So, so they're going to lie around like our wolves here, you know, they lie around all day long, and then they'll use that energy to say hi to us. That's pretty much it. And then they go back to lying all day long. They don't do a lot.
So that's not a situation where you'd have like a pack of wolves at this farm, like we're gonna take this thing down, and they're scheming and getting all the calves, and so it's usually just like one animal.
It's usually one animal, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that you won't see a group of them, but a group of them aren't usually all that bold to still go for farm stock because, so they go for those lean meats in the wild. They go for the elk, moose, bison, the deer species. Those are lean meat. I don't know if you've ever had elk or venison like as a meat. It's really
I
good,
love
right? Cows are really fatty. Wolves don't eat pig. They absolutely will starve themselves before they go for a pig because they think that thing's nasty. Sheep are just a bony cotton ball. They don't really want them. So the goats are the closest thing, but we've given the local butcher in the town that Wolf Creek's at has donated meat that went expired for humans, but the wolves still eat it. They've had cow meat, but they've regurgitated all the fat that they ingest, so they can't digest it. So they don't really want to go for that, but if they're desperate, it might happen.
They're gonna eat.
Right.
So how are you typically sourcing diet? I mean, besides hunters, but that's only seasonal. I mean, how do you source a year-round diet?
So we do have 24/7, 365. We do use a brand of kibble called it's the Missouri brand. It's a lot of the AZA facilities use for their animals. They're carnivores and herbivores. But we do get all the deer starting hunting season in our area. It's the last week of September, I think. We get it all the way, and we get enough meat that actually lasts us until about April-ish, May, when the wolves stop eating meat because their diets change once the summer hits because they're not producing the coat. They don't want to eat. Eating equals energy. Energy is heat, and wolves don't like to be hot. So, I mean, we'll go through, and we work with a number of the processor plants. That's where we get most of our deer. So we'll get the discards that the hunters don't want. So, I mean, collectively, we'll go through about 400 deer a year with our 40 animals.
Yeah.
That was not the number I was expecting.
But it's also like
when our pups were growing in that first year, we went through almost 600 deer. Yeah,
600.
and are you typically feeding them like, you know, is it in which way is it processed? Is it processed with all the bones down in it, or are you giving them some bones, or how does that work?
They get all the bones that they get with meat on them. That they get it all. Wolves will eat. They eat bone. They go for the bone marrow. It's like a really, really good source of protein, calcium, whatever is in bone marrow. Again, I don't remember. But it's good for them. It's like a fluoride for their teeth as well. And chewing bones is like toothbrush. So their teeth are very clean most of their lives. No bad breath either. It's kind of nice. It's really nice. But yeah, like the hunters, they'll donate, and we get discards of skulls, the backbones, ribs, legs, pelvises, all that with the meat on it and everything like that.
And is there any way special that you feed the animals, or do you just throw in meat over to them?
We just throw it in them. Yep, the alpha pair. If there's more than the two, the alphas do eat first, and the other ones kind of wait. They'll kind of roar at each other to get back. My turn first, you know, that kind of stuff. But that's normal. I mean, like a lot of the roaring that you hear, people would come visit us, and you hear roaring. It's never at us, especially when we're in the enclosures. So people like, it's not you. They're just arguing with each other. Sounds worse than it really is. A lot of disciplining. A lot of bickering. I mean, they're roaring and they're wolves. It's going to sound very intimidating, right? But it's really not.
And is that anything to where you have to make sure that certain ones get fed, or
They'll do it on their own.
does
I'm
that
assuming,
happen on their own?
Because
They'll pretty much do it on their own. We
Yeah.
don't like trap a wolf over one area and let that one eat first or other, because we don't want to take away from just that mentality of the hierarchy roles and everything like that.
Right. James Lewis asked if you ever do horse meat.
We actually, one of the neighbors lost a horse to something. I don't know what it was, but we did bring horse meat and they liked it. Some didn't, some did. So they're all picky eaters. Some of the wolves like the cow and some didn't. They're all very picky in general because we definitely spoil them. They're spoiled rotten.
Okay, kind of different subject. Well, not really, but so earlier before the podcast started, you told us that you work at a vet hospital during the day. And I wanted to know how much has like working at that like informed what you do at the sanctuary. I mean, obviously you're not getting wolves into the hospital that often, but I'm just wondering, like, is there any sort of crossover and like what you've learned there or seen there or anything like that?
Not entirely. The vet hospital that I work at, we do exotics though, which is really cool because we'll get reptiles in, we'll get birds in, as well as your normal cats, dogs, bunnies, ferrets, pigs. We've got pigs in. That's never fun. They scream. Oh, but I've been some more of the kenneling, grooming areas. But I'll walk on floor with the vet techs, and I've been learning more of the medical field-ish and what they do, and more of the medications. None of that really I can bring back to wolf wolves because they're very hardy animals anyway. Wolves don't really get sick. They can't get topical parasites. They can't get fleas, ticks, or lice. We give them that worming medication I mentioned earlier that tastes like bananas. So they don't get heartworm or any kind of GI worms or anything like that. And we give them their shots. So they get like parvo and distemper. We do not give wolves rabies shots though. It's a different strain from the canine rabies shot. And it has actually killed some of our wolf babies in the past. And they're never going to be around dogs anyway. We don't allow dogs on premises, so there's really little to no exposure of rabies for the wolves.
I guess that's nice. You don't have to worry about medications and stuff like that too often.
And do they take in any type of like rehab situation or rescue situation?
Wolf Creek?
Wolves?
Yeah. We have one of our recent rescues was 3 males, and they came from Quebec, actually, in Canada. So we got them back in April, and they have to be pure wolves. That's the thing. We don't take in hybrids anymore per the USDA, and we're like, that's fine. They're hard to deal with. There's plenty of other wolf dog sanctuaries out there, but we're wolf strict. Which the owner, Kathy, she gets probably a dozen calls a week. Like, hey, take in my wolf dog hybrid. We can't. So I would say 7 of our 40 are rescue situations. So those rescues were either facilities like the 3 boys that just came to us, new ownership of this animal park in Quebec where they didn't want the wolves anymore. So, and they were either going to go to a fur farm or to us. How it is in Canada. So we're like, yeah, bring them to us, please. So we were supposed to get them in February, but it took 3 months, 2 or 3 months to actually get through all the paperwork and everything. Customs was interesting.
I was just about to ask, what's the transportation process coming all the way from Canada?
Yeah, I think the drive was like 26 hours one way. So that was something. But one of the customs agents actually saw us coming across the border is now a volunteer, so that's kind of funny.
Small world.
She doesn't come down all the time, but once a month she'll try to make the trip, which is really cool. They got their selfies and everything with wolves. I don't know. You don't see that in the customs often. I understand. But
is that something that happens often between facilities? I mean, going from, I would think that if you're going to pick up something, it would be a lot easier to do it in the States than get something from Canada.
Yes, that was if it would have been from the States, it would have been not, I mean, maybe a week worth of paperwork to get through and to get it done. Just it coming from another country, that was, and I've seen the paperwork style, and it is literally like over 400 pages of like stuff that you're supposed to read and sign, and it was crazy. I'm like, I'm not reading this. Yeah, I can't even imagine because Kathy, the owner, had to read it all and understand it all. So it's definitely a lot more difficult getting them from a different country.
And do you know if is it legal to keep wolves in any states in the United States?
Privately is a 100% wolf. You are unable. It is illegal to own them privately. Now you have to be licensed as a as conservation, rehabilitation, or reintroduction facility under the Fish and Wildlife, USDA, DOA, all those acronym places to be able to own said animals. Now you can own hybrids, and this is where it gets funny. Different states had different laws for that. I know where I'm at in Kentucky, you cannot own even 10% wolf to 90% dog. In Ohio, when I'm born, there's laws depending on other paperwork, but like in Indiana, where our facility is, it's like Florida. You can own anything. It really is depending on the state.
Okay, so but there's not someone just with 100% wolves. That's very rare for you to be able to get the opportunity to get in contact with that animal.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they have a 100% wolf, then they can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I'm sure, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Aaron in the chat earlier brought this up, and it's something I kind of want to talk to you about also. So obviously, like people coming to this facility have not seen wolves very often, and also we are in a very social media centered world. Obviously, you do your own social media things, but how do you combat people who come in and want to, what's the word, like overstep to get that silent selfie or something like that? Do you have those issues?
I see
you, like,
Tony
go to,
on the internet
like,
taking pictures with wolves. I want to go
like,
take
like
pictures
go
with
too
wolves.
far
That's what
in
you mean?
the while they're at the facility. Have you ever had that happen?
I mean, you can bring your own phone or whatever and take your own pictures there if that's what you're asking. But like, if
Like
people
try to pick
are,
them up, or when you're not there. I don't know how to phrase it. Like, do they just ever overstep the boundaries? Any guests to the facility?
no, most people are really respectful when they come. The biggest thing with wolves is they don't like to be hugged. That is a dominant thing. Even your dog really doesn't like to be hugged. They just tolerate it because they love us, right? We are their person.
Really?
Wolves don't
Really think
have a,
Trixie loves
yeah, like there's some dogs that do like to be held and hugged and stuff, but that deep down in that canine brain, they're like, I hate this. But I'm tolerating this. Wolves just be like, don't touch me.
Who are
You know,
you?
and then they'll get up and walk away. That's what they do. If they don't like something that's happening, they're gonna get up and they're gonna walk away because that's how they are. They're very non-confrontational animals. They don't want to be aggressive. That's a waste of energy. So why would they want to?
Yeah.
But most
But it seems
people,
like you guys have super tolerable animals.
yeah, yeah. And also, for the most part, people understand when they come here that these are wolves, not dogs. So just the way you pet them is differently. They are head shy for the most part, kind of like how your snakes. You try to pet the snake and they go like this. The wolves do that too. You have to go underneath their heads, scratch their necks, their chests, so they actually enjoy that. They love their armpit scratch. You reaching over their heads, especially when they're on the ground, not up on a platform, and they're like, "What are you doing?" They shy away from it because it's a dominating, it's a threatening thing, just in general.
So is it the wolf tolerating you, or is the wolf because it seems like the wolf is always dominant over you, and it seems like they're always kind of, or you want them to seem like they're always in control more so than you trying to control the animal.
Right. And our wolves that we've bottle fed, that are in the interactions, they enjoy the interactions. So they'll come up, especially as volunteers, because we see them once a week, but they're always like, "Oh my God, you're here again." They go crazy. They jump up and they give me a hug, and I mean, I'm not a tall person, I'm like 5'6", but they're taller than I am when they get on their hind legs. And I mean, but then they'll go to the people, the guests and stuff, and they'll get their scratches, and they enjoy the attention that they get. But they're like cats, they'll go away for a little bit, especially if they hear like something fall in the corner of the enclosure or something like that. They'll go away and then they'll come back to us. They're not like dogs where they want attention 24/7.
Right. And I guess let's go on to some of the other animals that you have on social media.
Last one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last one. How many volunteers are typically there at the facility on those Saturdays and Sundays?
I would say every weekend we have a solid 8 to 10 regular volunteers, me being one of them. But on our list, there's probably 20, 25 of us total. It's just some others live 2, 3, 4 hours away. I mean, I live 2 hours away, but I still make that. Like, I'll be going there tomorrow as Tuesday. It's like maintenance day, but we get to see some of the non-interactive wolves that miss us, and I can't wait. But the ones that people can't see, but we can see them. So those volunteers might not be able to make it out as often. So a solid out of 8 to 10, 12 would be a really nice day of having, because we do interactive groups, and if we have the people, we'll do 3 groups at a time. That's 2 volunteers per group, plus volunteers up on our like sky deck that we have that runs along the entire enclosure, the entire exhibit facility, and people in the gift shop as well. So 12 would be definitely a good day. But we do hurt sometimes for volunteers that come out.
Yeah, but you guys seem lucky to have a core group of people who are willing to travel. I mean, you're willing to travel that much to go and help out.
Definitely.
Is there any potential for this to become like a full-time thing for you? I mean,
or a career with wolves in general.
Right. I know it's a nonprofit, so they obviously can't take on, too many people. But you're so dedicated.
Yeah, the only way that it would be a career is if like something catastrophic happened and like I would take over, but that's never gonna happen. It's just volunteering, and I mean we get rewarded with just having these animals really trust us. They see us, and they're overjoyed to see us, and that just makes me feel. I love having that connection with an animal that is demonized so well, but these animals are really just trying to survive. They just want to be, left alone in the wild and do their thing, and we do our thing. So it's really cool to have that connection with these animals, because they're not the beasts. Little Red Riding Hood lied. The 3 little pigs had faulty construction. So like that's what we say.
And how did, or I guess getting back to what I was going to say before, the other animals that I've seen you work with, is that somewhere else, or how'd you get those interactions with those animals?
So if you're talking about like the raccoons or maybe the bobcat, and
it seems like native wildlife
native wildlife. So I am as well as Wolf Creek habitat, which is just wolves and foxes. I have been in over a year and a half now with a organization, the program that is run out of a family's home in my hometown, Cincinnati. They do educational outreaches for like parties or corporate events or schools. And we'll go and educate with a whole plethora of animals. And I'm talking, we have exotics. So we have reptiles, we have invertebrates, we have mammals and birds. We have them all across the board. Some of our, our stars would be Hunter, our bobcat. He is 8 months old now. We do have Ralphie the raccoon. He's 8 months as well. We have a groundhog. We got 2 skunks and an opossum. Those are our natives. But then we have like chinchillas. We have ferrets. We have tortoise species, 7 or 8 different species of tortoise. The several snake species, and we've had tegus. We've had a dwarf caiman before, stuff like that. So I just work with them, and it's funny that's how I met this couple. They're late 30s. They actually came to Wolf Creek and interacted with the wolves, and I overheard them talking about their Egyptian fruit bats that they have, and I was like, say what? And then I actually got their information, and I've been working with them since. It's really cool how we get connected from other facilities and just all that stuff. So that's what you've probably seen, as well as in my hometown here, in my town now in Louisville, Kentucky. I am a certified wildlife rehabber. I'm working to obtain my licensing sometime next year, but I am a junior rehabbing volunteer. I think that's my title. At Second Chances Wildlife in Louisville, Kentucky, and we have a beaver. His name's Justin Beaver.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, of course. I cringe, but it's funny. And as well as a fox, and we do raccoons, opossums, skunks, small brown bats. I think silver-haired bats. I'm not much on the bat species per se, um, but we do rehabbing for those species, and that's a lot of too.
How do you have time? You just said like 4 different things. Where do you make time for all of this?
As well as me having my own reptiles, and I'm in my reptile room right now. I don't have a lot of time, but I make time as much as I can. Like Wolf Creek, I'll go. That's once a week. Second Chances once a week. The ZooPro Adventures, that's the place up in Cincy with like the raccoon, the bobcat. That's just whenever they have a party or an event. So that might be twice a month maybe. But I'm still like I guess I'll call for that. So.
How far is Cincy?
Cincinnati from Louisville, Kentucky is about an hour and 40 minutes.
It's not bad.
Nah, it's not too bad. Me and my family's back in Cincy and stuff, so. And I kind of make a day. So I'm going with the Wolves tomorrow. That's about 2 hours north of where I'm at. And then it'll be like 35 minutes cutting from Brookville, Indiana, where the Wolves are, to Cincy, say hi to the fam, hang out for a while, and then I'll be back here later in the evening.
Gotcha.
That's still a lot to me.
Yeah, a lot of driving. I have a good car for that, so that makes the world better.
And can we talk a little bit about the process, how, at least, I guess, in your state, how it works to become a wildlife rehabber?
Yeah, so it's really cool. There is a program that's online that you can sign up for. It is through the IWRC, International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council. So IWRC. And you can just you sign up, and then there are classes, usually 2-day classes, kind of I guess being held at certain areas in the States and in Canada, that's will hold the class. So you have classroom days and you'll have hands-on days with some of the animals. They're post-mortem animals, but so you get a sense of the medical aspect of it. But so we as in 3 other friends and myself, we actually are from Louisville. And we went down to Murray, Kentucky, the University of Murray, or Murray University, whatever it is. They hold it. Nothing twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. And you go through the classes. There's a big textbook that we study for it and everything like that. Take the prior to the exam. We work on animals that, like I said, the post-mortem. But there's bird species, so you kind of learn how to inject subcutaneous fluids into, the skin, and how to wrap a bird's wing if it has a broken wing up. Rehabbers, technically, they don't really do the veterinarian stuff, right? So rehabbers, you take the animal, you basically get it, you know, patched up as best you can, and then take it to a veterinarian that handles the actual procedures to fix the animal. And then you get them back, and then you rehab them. You always monitor fluid intake, food, fecals, all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of decide when the animal is ready for being released again. So that's kind of the rehabbing aspect of it. But there's medical stuff, but not like a veterinarian medical stuff.
And is the rehabber responsible with financing this?
Certain states actually will fund it. So in Kentucky, I don't know the acronym or the actual organization, but in Kentucky, and I can vouch for this myself, I'm rehabbing a black rat snake currently. That was caught in a friend's basement, and I'm like, don't kill it. So it has like a little infection in the left lower lip, as well as it's a little cut infected. But I mean, he's doing good. He ate for me. But so the funding actually comes from some type of wildlife, like Kentucky Wildlife organization. So the funding, so I didn't have to pay for it, any veterinarian stuff. Even if it was the facility, the animal hospital that I work at, I didn't have to pay for anything. So I was like, all right. Whereas if I would take my dog in, then, I get discounts, but it's not free.
Right. So that's
Different
awesome. I
states.
didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know like the resources where they were pulled from. But
Mhm.
so as far as being a rehabber, are you working with oftentimes like a lot of birds? Because it seems like something that you focused on before.
Actually, the birds, the only winged animals we do are bats. The facility that I'm at, they don't do birds. They don't do any raptors or any type of songbird, or any waterfowl. Which is kind of like, I don't mind that because I don't like birds that much because I don't like beaks. Um, beaks hurt bad. I'd take teeth and claws every day, any day.
Interesting.
Huh?
I've never heard that. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, so the ZooPro Adventures place that I volunteer at, do that outreaches. They have macaws, and if you know anything about macaws or there's large birds, they're very smart, and they only pick like one person they like ever. None of those birds like me. They try to bite me all the time, and they have bit me, and it does not feel good. Whereas I've been like nipped by some of the wolves before, and it's like a flea bite. They're just telling me, get out of the way or get out of my enclosure or whatever. You're taking your sweet time laying straw down in the mud, and that bruises, but it won't take your finger off like a bird beak. So yeah, I'm not big on birds.
We've had multiple times during the show where we've had a guest and you hear like what sounds like screams from the background. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
my bird knows I'm here and they just want me."
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
the thing
reason
too.
for not liking birds. Just the noise. I just
Oh, that's another thing too. Is those birds they scream every single day. I can't even handle it. That's why I love my reptiles. They don't make noises.
they're silent.
So, as far as rehabbing, I mean, do you get to deal with a bunch of reptiles or do you hope to get to deal with a bunch of reptiles?
I hope to. We have a couple eastern box turtles that we are rehabbing right now. I think one of them won't be ever released because it was hit by a lawnmower and
Mm.
like one of its shell, the whole scoot actually was like chopped off basically. So it was quite exposed, but now that bone has grown where it would have been open before, but it's kind of soft. So it's really weird.
Hmm.
That's kind of one of our ambassador eastern boxes, but there is a sulcata, like that's not a local species, so she stays. um, she doesn't really get a whole lot of reptiles. The owner of Wildlife, Second Chances Wildlife, she doesn't know a lot of the reptile stuff, but I have a friend down here and myself, which will be probably leading more reptilian intakes actually. So she's excited to do more with that.
Yeah, and I feel like I see all the time people bringing in turtles or something after they've been run over. Very rarely have I seen anyone bring, a snake to a rehabber at all.
Not often. Actually, that black rat that I'm fostering or rehabbing is just because it wasn't part of Second Chances. Just friends of mine were like, I don't know what to do with it. I was like, I'll take it in for now. Release it in springtime when it's not like 30 degrees outside. Um,
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I guess you get them right before brumation, before they would, go down to brumate, and then what do you do with them? I guess you got to keep them all winter, right?
Yep, I'm gonna be keeping them all winter.
And as far as other reptiles you keep, what do you have behind you?
I've been
Yeah,
eyeing an 8-legged creature behind you. Oh my god.
yeah, I have invertebrates. So I have a rosehair tarantula right there. I guess you can see it, as well as it's an ivory ornamental. That's more of my, I guess, ornate spider. I don't handle that one. That is potentially my worst bite case of the animals that I have. I don't want to get bitten by that.
Have you been bit by that?
No, I haven't. Knock on wood. Their venom is really painful, is what I've heard. Whereas like my rose hair is just like a bee sting that bite. Yeah, she's not real friendly anyway. I have, let's see, the snakes. Later this week I'll be intaking a full-grown red-tailed boa actually from a friend of mine's at my animal hospital's like son-in-law or something like that. I forget who, but that'll be interesting. And then the ones behind me, I have just a ball python and then a Dumeral's ground boa. as I have two bearded dragons, and I have an Argentine and a Colombian black and white tegu, and a Savannah monitor.
Nice. So you're pretty much covering the gambit of things there.
Yeah, I am.
I know. 0 legs, 4 legs, 8 legs. It's kind of
Yeah. Yep.
So what was you said you started with the corn snake. Where did you go from there?
So I had the snakes for a while. So I had the corn snake, and then I had 2 corn snakes, and then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to get a lizard. And then I was doing my research and stuff. So I kind of got into the leopard gecko stream. And I love my desert or sub-desert savanna animals. Are a little bit easier to keep track of or keep for me because they don't need that humidity stuff and all that crazy stuff that you have to watch. Keep it dry for them and they're good. Leopard geckos were fun, and then I saw at a reptile expo, and this is before and don't do what I did, people. Don't just buy a savanna monitor thinking that, oh my god, it's so cute. She is in my 6x4x4 that's right next to me right now. They need a lot of space and they need a lot of room. A lot of people mess up on that, but I'm big on the like the Savannah monitor education on social media right now because she'll be 5 in April.
I think that's probably, at least right now, I mean, and we've seen these things come in waves, but probably the most mishandled and misinformed as far as animals that we get that is so readily imported, but are so hard to maintain a good captive population for, or just are too expensive to get breeding pairs, and therefore, $25 imports are always going to be prevalent because why captive breed them
when you can
because you need that 6-foot enclosure that you just talked about.
Right, and that's the minimal standards. Most people want to get others to do an 8x4x4, which is definitely it's better. I'm in an apartment right now, so it's like once I get a house, I'll be able to build all these enclosures in my basement or whatever room I'll have, and it'll be better. But the husbandry that I have for right now is good for temporary use. They will not be in it long term. So when I get a house, hopefully next year, they'll be in nice big wooden enclosures with the correct, with perfect humidity and substrate depth and everything like that.
So
where do you fall as far as your beliefs as far as husbandry? Are you a bioactive monitor person, naturalistic? What do you do?
I haven't really gotten to the bioactive stuff yet. Just because I have glass tanks for things, and I also have these things called grow tents. You can kind of see one right here for me. They're primarily used for people to grow plants indoors. But the reptile world has
everyone at home, that's what you grow your weed in.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was a foosball table. I don't know why.
Definitely not.
There's a little window down here. My Colombian black and white tegus in there.
I thought it was
No, that's one of the tents. That's the 4x30x30 inch, I think. My Colombian's in there. But they're good. They're cheap. Get them on Amazon. People in the reptile world have retrofitted them, put them sideways. Put a tarp down, tape the sides of the tarp up so they can't get out of any random holes or stuff that are in the grow tents where you would put lights and wires through. And then they hold humidity amazingly. They're supposed to for the plants and stuff. So that's what I've been using because I'm in an apartment. Can't really make a big old wooden enclosure and something like this. I'm leaving in X amount of time. So.
Yeah, I think that's something
that way that someone recently chose to do in our house.
I think that's something that we're always fighting for, especially, where we're at in our life too, is we've moved 3 or 4 times in a row. And building those giant permanent enclosures is just kind of a hard commitment to make when you're bouncing around a lot.
Right, it is.
Yet you still make an 8-foot thing in our house.
Yeah. So I finally decided I was going to make, the one cage that I've been talking about forever, the one big cage that I don't know, maybe we could move or couldn't move, and
It's just so large.
we don't know where we're gonna put it yet, really, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's part of the fun.
Okay.
So, what do you as far as enclosures besides the grow tents and stuff like that? Like, did you build the Savannah monitors, or is he also in a grow tent?
Right now, she is still in a grow tent. She's in that 6x4x4. At my previous residence when I first got here, so I've only been in my place of living since June, so whatever that is, 7 months or so, 6 months. And before that, for the first 3 years, I built a wooden 6x4x4. She had about 1.5 feet of substrate to work with, and it was awesome. So definitely want to get back into a house, into building the enclosures that they should be in, just for the correct everything, because I want these. I mean, I try to spoil my reptiles as best I can, but with how little room I have and finances and stuff, it's hard.
I get that.
Have you gotten into any of the enrichment or training that you can do with some of the lizards?
Vega is my Savannah monitor, and I had point trained her in the past. Basically just I drew a circle, a little red dot on a piece of paper, and I had her, she had to walk up and poke it with her nose, and then I'd give her, her food. So she learned that. I haven't done that in like 2 years. She was young when she did that, so I don't know if she still remembers it, but other than that, just a lot of socialization. Because there is the Kentucky or the Southern Indiana Breeders Expo, which is like one of the reptile shows that are in our town. And I've been there with one of my other friends down here. We do education with our animals. I have several care sheets written up of common reptiles that you'll find in the trade, that we give to people just at the shows. And it's like, hey, this 12-year-old Bobby got a bearded dragon baby. Like, here's a care sheet, Mom. Like, make sure you do it right.
Yeah. And so that must be a huge thing with tegus and Savannah monitors and stuff like that.
Yeah. Proper husbandry and enclosure and socializing. Like the Colombian, like everybody knows what the Colombians with golden tegus, they're very temperamental. So I try to work with them. He's flighty, thankfully he's not bitey. But my Argentine, she's sweet as sugar. So like, I'm definitely gonna work with her more. So when she gets real big and stuff, I'll be able to take her out to the educational outreaches that I do, and ooh and ah for the kids and stuff like that. So.
And that seems to be like the generalization, right? That the Argentines are generally the more laid back.
Mm-hmm. Especially females.
Oh, so there could be a difference between the sexes as well.
Mm-hmm. Just in general, I mean, they're really smart little lizards. And with that comes personalities. So they can have certain personalities, but as long as you work with them, I think even if there are males, as long as you work with them at a young age, they'll turn out to be really good. And I pretty much stand by any kind of animal that you would work with. If you work with them at a young age and work with them often, and fight through those teenage years that some of these lizards can have, some snakes can have, they're gonna be really good animals to use for, education or just in general nicer to people.
So you work with such a wide variety of animals. Do you have a favorite, or at least like group of it, like mammals or reptiles or stuff like that? Like, are you partial to one?
I would say I have a favorite in like each kingdom per se. Like, yeah, so like my favorite type of bird species are the bearded vultures. Those are the ones that like their diet is primarily bone. If you've never heard of that before, definitely Google that because those things are wild. My favorite like reptile, I am partial to the monitors because they're large, they're intelligent. They just look like little baby Komodo dragons basically. They're so cool. I mean mammals, I love wolves, but there's the carnivores. So I have a favorite herbivore, and I love pangolins. The world's most trafficked animal. So that's kind of where you have out of fish. I love sharks. I can't really zone in on one per se. I have favorites in everywhere.
Is there any animal that you haven't worked with that you'd love to work with?
I would love to work. I don't know. I'd love to work with more native, like hoof stock animals. It'd be really cool to work with like moose or elk. You know, there's big ones as long as they don't like, trample you to death or anything like that. That'd be so cool to just be up close because if you've never really seen a moose or elk, like a bull elk up close before, you don't understand how massive they are. I mean, full grown like bull elk can push to like 400 pounds. And they're tall. Moose, they're taller and they're bigger than horses. Like people don't understand how immense these animals are out west until you get real close to them.
Yeah, those are like our big charismatic animals where, everyone looks to Africa and in some parts Asia and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
we have all these amazing animals here.
that
You know, we
people just overlook often. It's like we have so much cool stuff. How about we help to conserve these guys here? You know.
Speaking of that, okay, I have to talk about two animals I do not find cool, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to be better. You brought up skunks and opossums earlier.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find it in my heart to love them.
Really.
But I would love to hear more about them and your experience working with them.
Definitely. Like I said, two animals that are also very misunderstood just by the general public. Skunks, there are four different species of skunks. Primarily what we see are the striped skunks in our area in the Midwest, in my area, I guess. I don't know exactly where you guys are from. But they give plenty of warnings before they actually spray you. It takes a whole 7 days for them to reload their spray glands again. So that is a last ditch resort if you are going to get sprayed. And by then they do this little like crazy pounding with their front legs. They have the tail up and they're curling. They make themselves look bigger. They don't really have too many sounds. They don't really make a lot of sounds. They'll do like chirping, kind of screeching kind of things. They're really weird. Um, but if a lot of people, their dogs don't heed those warnings, so of course the dogs get sprayed, right? Um, it is it's sulfur something. I can't remember exactly. That's what that smell is from. But it's not fun. And the skunks that we work with, that are released again, yeah, they keep their scent glands, so we try not to get sprayed by them.
and have you.
I haven't, no, but they have sprayed in the house before, like the facility that it is. It's like a retrofitted, like really nice house retrofitted as a rehabbing center. And literally I walked in once and I was like, it's the worst thing ever. And like you smell it if a car hits one on the highway, you'll smell it right when you drive by. Times that by 10, and that's what the smell really is.
In a house.
And like a little house, and that's awful. So we open all the windows, and we have the central vacuum, try to shoot it out the roof and stuff, and it's, uh, but skunks are cool. Not quite like my interest really. Um, Raccoons are little terrors. Um, one
See, again, so hard to
yeah.
find a love for them.
Yeah, opossums though I really do enjoy. Being that their lifespan is 1 to 2 years in the wild. In captivity, you can get 5. It's really rare. They just don't live real long. That's because they have a lot of predators in the wild. You'll get owls, you'll get canines, so like coyotes will get them. I mean, wolves will get them too in certain areas where those are found. Bobcats, mountain lions, these things get eaten by everything, unfortunately, and it's because they play opossum, and that doesn't work. Some animals are like, I don't care, I'll still eat it. So unfortunately, that's the case. But some cool fun facts is that like these guys, they're omnivores. They're primarily scavengers. So they eat decaying plant and animal matter. They eat bugs. They eat ticks. They'll eat 40,000 ticks a season. So that just opossums alone actually keep the risk of a lot of tick-borne diseases to us too down, like Lyme disease. Um, Nobody wants to get Lyme disease. And just the fact that they very rarely contract rabies. Their internal body temperature is from 94 to 97, which rabies has to actually proliferate in 98 or 99 and above. So there's been like 2 or 3 documented cases of opossums in the last 40 years, I think, that have had rabies. out of the millions of
Wow.
opossums that are out there. So it's pretty cool. They're really, really, I mean, they're really useful in just the ecosystems themselves.
And did I hear you say that you work with them at the rehab place and at the place that does like events?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. So what like are people's normal reaction when you bring out the skunks and the opossums?
Most people think our skunk. So at the ZooPro Adventures, the outreach center, most people think our skunks are badgers first. Which is kind of funny. Those skunks that we have were born in captivity, so they're not the black and white. One is a lavender, and one is a chocolate.
Well,
So
so these are like mutations of skunks?
so the fur trade. Primarily in the fur trade are skunk. What are the other ones? Let's see. Like skunks, foxes. Foxes are real big in the fur trade. So that's where you get those morphs. You've seen a white fox, right?
Yeah.
Or those. That's actually that's man-made. Like that, you can't find that in the wild. So our skunks were actually born in a fur farm, but like the coats that they have wouldn't have been good for money for their pelts, for their coats. So they were sold privately. It's kind of how it is.
So, I mean, where are these like skunk? I never really thought about this. The skunk and like
Yeah.
the fur farms, the raccoon fur farms and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there are places that just breed raccoons and skunks and stuff for pets in general. There is a couple that I don't know exactly where they're at, but they're in Ohio. They're in like eastern Ohio somewhere where we got our skunk. That's where we got our bobcat. That private ownership breeding. Most of those places that will sell those animals you have to be registered as an educational. You can't be private usually, though some people were like, "Oh, I'm getting the money. You take the animal, whatever." So it's a shady world, but I know that the places that I work with are very reputable.
So it's something to where not every state you can have a pet skunk,
Correct.
can you?
Correct. Yeah, that's a state by state kind of thing. Just because they are native species, there's rules and regulations. You might have to get certain permits or a couple permits for these animals. But like in Indiana, most of the time, if you're going to be out in the woods somewhere, you can kind of get away with owning a raccoon or something. So there's always that too.
And
because you just really want that raccoon.
with the well, yeah, he just needs something to pick his hair when he's, drinking his coffee, reading the newspaper.
Ew, stop.
So, skunks and raccoons. I had a question. I totally forgot it.
Compare their hair. I know it's just a super random question.
Skunks are super soft. Like I can't even describe it because like nothing that I've ever felt man-made felt like a skunk's like fur. They're just super silky, real long fur, soft, cottony, but like not.
Is there a breed of dog that's similar?
A freshly groomed, like what are the big white
Pomeranians are pretty
Pyrenees?
soft.
Freshly groomed Pyrenees probably would be the best, but even in Pyrenees is still just a slightly wiry touch compared to that fur. Now raccoon fur is wiry and like it's soft, but there's that wiry overcoat that they have. It's the fact that raccoons are so gelatinous, like in general, that like it gives them their softness. I guess they're just very blubbery things. I don't know.
Yeah,
not
they
a
just
solid animal.
always. They don't. Yeah, they're
Don't
not
look
lean,
athletic.
muscular, athletic, but they
No.
are somehow. They're just fat and athletic.
Yeah, yeah. Like they can contort themselves to fit through like 4 inches. Like they can fit themselves in a 4-inch hole. It's just the craziest thing.
But they're
Yeah.
so.
They squeeze on by. They're like a cat. They're just like they're water. They're just made out of water.
And do these? That's what I was gonna ask before. Do the pets for the skunk or the skunks for the pet trade? Do they have these glands taken out, or do they still have the scent glands?
Nope, they get taken out. So our skunks, they don't have their scent glands. It's a procedure that's as easy as spaying or neutering a dog. It's just back there near the anus. So it's pretty easy to do.
And I'm assuming those people who breed it, I mean, are trained to do that, or are they bringing it into like a vet all the time? Or
Yeah, I think usually they work with a vet to have it surgically removed, like officially and professionally. I don't think these people just like breed a skunk and be like, oh, I can do it. I don't know.
I know some people.
Oh no.
I don't know. Maybe if they had that background, they might do it. I don't know.
I just
Veterinarian professionals do it.
I can't say anything because we breed snakes, but in my head, I'm like, I just can't even imagine the
Are you
skunk
saying the
breeding
skunk
world.
guys, or what's wrong with being a skunk breeder?
It's just such an interesting choice, but also we breed snakes, so I have no room to talk. But it just seems so different, and I don't get the appeal.
What if you could just have like a herd of skunks come in the door?
Skunks are honestly, they make really good, nice pets. I mean, the fact that, I mean, they like to dig, so just don't get like shag carpet because they're gonna dig it all out. But they're not, I mean, they have really poor eyesight, so you just gotta be real slow in front of the face so they know not to like just bite something. Otherwise, they're very friendly. You just grab them, plop them, you can hold, they're just here sniffing you aside and all that stuff. So, I mean, they're really, really sweet animals.
Do they have any type of like defensive nature to them? I mean, besides the obvious ones that you kind of went over.
The ones in captivity, they're like a dog. I mean, they're like a really fluffy, colorful dog. They're not defensive. They've been around people, their owners all their life, so they're used to it. But just the wild ones, there's other defensive mechanisms I mentioned before. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious what like a skunk bite would be like.
Oh, they have very sharp teeth. Yeah, it's not fun to get bit by them, but I would say, I mean, their teeth are it's like, if you know what a ferret's mouth is like, very kind of sharp-y-ish.
Yeah.
I like to
that,
not
but
know
bigger.
what a ferret's mouth is like.
Yeah.
You're such a four-legged hater.
Oh, that's such a, I fully admit it, but I'm learning. I'm a knowledgeable hater.
Now, raccoons in the wild eat trash. Skunks in the wild, I don't know what the hell they do. What do they eat in captivity?
We give them a dog and cat food mix as well as fresh veggies and some fruits. You won't give them too many because then it just runs through their bodies for some reason. And it's never fun to clean up. But they're very, I mean, they're omnivores, so they'll eat anything. They're very opportunistic. In the wild, skunks primarily go for like roots and beets, onions, carrots. They'll go through your garden for sure, dig up everything. They'll go for like eggs, bird eggs, quail nest on the ground, right? So they'll go for quail eggs. They'll go for like little lizards if they can get them, small snakes or mushrooms. They'll go for berries, anything they can really get their hands on.
Wow.
Little foragers.
Yeah. And then what do you feed the raccoon in captivity?
He gets a cat food as well as half a banana in the morning and the other half at night. And then scraps. Like I'll have dinner. So I mean, I finished like a couple things of pizza, and I gave him like not a whole piece of pizza, but I gave him some pizza, some chips. I mean, when he was
trash.
Trash. Yeah. No, he tried to get in some of my trash cans, and if you tell them no, they get real mean. So, real hissy at you and stuff. So, yeah.
So they have like some type of personality, like
oh god, yeah.
They're super interactive like that.
Oh yeah. And he was young, so he's still learning his behaviors and stuff. But just think of a raccoon as a ADHD toddler on cocaine with teeth and claws. That is what a raccoon is.
Every single human being's worst nightmare.
Yes, basically. I had him for a week, and that was just because the owners went down to Florida to Disneyland and Disney World, and I was like, yeah, I can watch Ralphie. Why not? And by like Thursday, I'm like, when are you getting back? Like,
do you have to how do you raccoon proof the house?
It is very difficult. Very difficult. He got in everything. Like when he had his cage, his kennel. So he was in that when I was not home. So if I was working, he'd be in there. But I'd let him out, roam around and stuff. 110% supervision on one. Like at any minute he's out. because I mean I was making dinner for like us actually one night, and then I didn't hear anything, and I was like, where is he? What did he get into?
What is he
I
in?
turned around and he got into some of my plants, and he dug out one of my plants, and it just the mulch and shredded plant everywhere, and I'm like, what are you doing? So I went over to try to grab him out, and he gets all he like hissy at me and stuff, and I'm like, we are not
Like
doing
you're
this.
like you're disturbing his life. Like
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, they get in everything. Eventually they do calm down. There is a raccoon at Second Chances Wildlife. His name's Blackjack, and he's probably 10 years old, but he is slow and calm, and just he'll roll over and just scratch my belly. That's all he wants. And he's great.
So, at the rehab facility, do the owners, do they like live in that house, or is it like separate from where they actually
They
live?
did. Just the lady. She did run it out of her house before. 2 years ago, she actually bought another house, and they renovated it to be like the facility.
Right.
So it is a house, but like you walk in, and the basement has. I mean, the whole almost 80% of the house is all like the big cages, the big enclosure, barred enclosures, whatever, with whatever animals they might be. So we do have our ambassador animals, a raccoon. We do have a hedgehog and a couple opossums that can't be re-released for various reasons. There is like a quarantine area for intakes in case they do have like distemper or parvo or something, ticks, fleas. Fleas are awful. Um, but yeah, so she used to run out of her house, but she has her own place now. Even with like a barn-ish area that we've renovated to be an educational center, which is really cool. It's on property.
So is
So
she getting money based off donations also?
donations, and there is I believe one or two organizations that run through the state as in a rehabbing facility that she gets funds for. I'm not sure exactly. I've been with them just like a month and a half actually, so
Oh, oh
they're
my
very
gosh,
new.
you know so much for only a month and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you find all these people? Like,
A lot of connections, a lot of just reaching out to different places, friends through word of mouth, Instagram. Sometimes I meet people through there, and I've gone out and traveled to other facilities and places. I have a friend of mine who her and her father run a facility that does education with all sorts of animals as well, up in basically just south of Chicago. That's really cool that what she does up there. And I don't know, I just meet more people, and the webbing gets bigger and the tree grows and stuff like that. So it's really cool. I love the animal world.
I have to ask, since you're in Kentucky,
Yeah.
have you been to the Kentucky Wildlife Zoo, right?
No,
Or
Reptile
Wildlife
Zoo? Is that what you're thinking of?
Kentucky Jim and yeah, the Kentucky Reptile Zoo.
I have not yet. I have heard about it though. I want to when it gets warmer again.
I
Maybe
think
like
Slade is kind of like out in the middle of nowhere for everyone.
yeah. It sounds like do you have a connection with them?
Yeah, so we just had them on the it's Kristen and Jim Harrison. We had them on the podcast a while ago, and just their story and the things they do for venomous animals is
Okay.
just very just interesting and
Extremely
different.
unique to say the least.
Yeah,
Too.
and I just feel like it'd be right up your alley just because of all the stuff that you're into and everything like that.
Sure. I mean, I've heard of them. I definitely want to look into visiting at some point. I love just meeting other people in their facilities and just learning more. Like you said, venomous. I don't do a lot of venomous stuff. I don't do any venomous stuff actually because I don't want to go to the hospital. But um, but I have some friends that are online through various social media, and they do they'll go live on other platforms, and they'll educate about venomous. And I'm learning venomous species and stuff too. So it's really cool just to make those connections as well.
And do you have like any degree or anything, or are you straight up just this all through relationships?
Experience,
Yeah, I have a environmental science degree, a minor in geography, a minor in biology, and like my environmental science degree was a focus on ecological conservation. So that's what most of my classes were, like a lot of uh I don't know, for example, working like tree tagging and emerald ash borer beetle like removal, ash tree removal, stuff like that. that would help ecosystems as a whole, not really focusing on animals per se, but where they are from.
But was this always kind of the goal?
Yeah, it kind of was. I really wish, and a lot of people do, regret the path they took in college and they wish they did something else. And looking back, I really did wish I got a biology degree and maybe focused more on zoology or animal sciences, something like that, that would have just benefited me in the long run. Because professionally, I want to work somewhere where, I'm either ecological conservation, where I'm hiking the woods, doing water treatment or water testing, soil sampling, tree tagging, that kind of stuff, or working with wildlife rehabbing or education of animals and certain exotic or native species. So I'm like two paths. I need to find one somewhere, and it's taking a sweet time finding it.
Do you hope to open up your own facility one day?
I have thought that, and that's actually why I didn't move down to Louisville from Cincinnati. A friend of mine down here, her name's Jordan. Her and I had that thought of opening up our own reptile rehabbing center. We actually do have a group, unofficially, officially, but we are somewhat taking over a group here in the city called the Kentucky Herpetological Society, and that's primarily what we're going to use now as our basis for what we want to do. So we won't have like a facility per se, but we'll be doing our education through the Kentucky Herp Society.
Oh, that's awesome. And we definitely have some people to refer you and vice
Yeah.
versa. Cause
Definitely.
yeah, there's some really great snake people in general in Louisville.
Yeah, definitely are. And I'm meeting more and more every week.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say it
You
right.
pronounced
Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah, I was saying it wrong too. I kept saying Louisville too, and everybody's down here is like, it's Louisville. I was like, my bad.
I dropped some sounds.
Yeah,
Louisville.
sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot. Okay. So since you brought up social media in our last little bit of time, let's kind of talk about that, because that is
Yeah.
how we found you, is through social
Right.
media. So when did you start? I mean, obviously TikTok's not been around forever, but when did you start the social media aspect and everything?
I guess I've had Instagram for several years now, and that was just kind of like pictures of my life and this, that, and the other. And I kind of, within the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, got more of like, I could make something maybe of myself on social media and get the education that I want to put, here out to people. So that's where kind of like the Instagram came from. So I'm just trying to kind of build up a following account on that more so to reach out. And I have people, several people a week, if not a couple dozen or so, ask me all about, this animal, that animal that they have, primarily reptiles, or people do ask questions about the wolves. And I love it. I love teaching, I love educating, I love giving people the knowledge that they ask for. And I like having that knowledge too. Um, but I got on TikTok early through in the summer, I believe, and just for fun, my brother and his girlfriend were like, "You should get on TikTok. This is hilarious stuff on here." And I was like, "Okay, fine." Then I'm like, I put a couple videos of like a couple animals, and like people really liked it, and I was like, "Oh, oh, okay." Hey, and then I could actually attach my Instagram to my TikTok, and I'm like, okay, people really like wolves. A lot. So I go live on TikTok maybe once or twice a week, and I always reach out to more people than I do on Instagram, because I have almost 250,000 people on TikTok now, and I only have just over 3,000 on Instagram. So it's a lot of fun. I love meeting all these types of people, and having people ask me questions, and it's not an ego thing, but it's like my biggest thing is having people, they buy reptiles or they want to own reptiles, as long as they have the proper education for the husbandry, for the diets and everything, I know that those animals will be better off with people. So that's kind of where I want those animals to live a happy long life. So I want to help those people that own those animals do the right things, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think that, social media isn't used very well by people who, zoos in particular, like zoological facilities, don't really play well, as far as like they have a lot of PR issues to deal with, so they can't really put out any content or I guess it could be up to these smaller nonprofits who, I mean, you have a wolf, which, I mean, if you work with like big cats or wolves or something that's super charismatic of an animal, and people that are, even the beaver that you posted got so many, he got so many views,
Yeah,
like,
people love Justin Bieber.
like, like it's like that can just reach so many more people, and I don't think people have caught on to that, at least in the wildlife sector, zoological community and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting what the certain animals that people really hone into, and what those animals, which animals get like big. Because like I just posted one of the foxes I work with, and that was my biggest hit on TikTok, and I'm like, it's just a fox that's playing around gnawing on my arm. Like a normal day for me.
Yeah, but I think that's the beauty of it, is like, people. Well, it's also nice to know that people get excited just to see what you do every single day. It should make you more grateful to be able to do what you do, right?
Yeah, it is. It definitely, just having those animals have such a positive feedback from people in a way that, I love foxes, they're great, not just people going, they kill my chickens, well, I'm sorry. But like they were here before we were, and probably here way before we're gone. So I mean, you have to respect. It's all about mutual respect for any animal, whether it's domestic, exotic, wildlife, native, whatever it is.
And I could imagine that, a place like TikTok has a much younger audience.
That was my
And
next
probably,
question.
you're able to reach a young audience, and those kids already like have, often as a kid, you have that imagination that, like, for us as animal people at a certain age, you got hooked by it and enthralled by dinosaurs or reptiles or animals in some kind of way, and you're able to be a catalyst to, the young people on this app.
Definitely, and that's why I do like the TikTok, just because I do reach that age, younger kids who are, they're pushing through elementary or high school, and maybe they don't know what to do with their life, but they like animals. Maybe I can help them out with leading them into a career choice where animals will be a part of what they want to do, because there's dozens of different areas of the animal world that you can work with. It's conservation, education, husbandry, zookeeping. You can do research. You can do. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. So it's real cool. People ask me, it's like, what can I do? Like I'm 16 or I'm 18, I'm about to graduate. I want to get in some type of animals thing. I'm like, well, you can do this. And they're like, oh my god, I didn't know that. Like that kind of helps them to figure out what they want to do.
Did you ever want to do zookeeping?
I did. I do. It'd be really nice. It's just that little piece of paper you get from college does a lot for you, and I didn't get like a zookeeping degree or anything like that. Plus, a lot of the zoos, if you haven't been like volunteering or working part time to get those connections with the
Hours and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, they're not, an average Joe isn't gonna come in and swoop a position out with someone that's, this zookeeper hiring knows this person for 6 years. They're gonna hire them in before you. So
Right.
I understand that. Especially me being in Cincinnati. Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens is like either number 2 or number 3 in the nation. So I'm like, I'm not getting there. So it's just like I kind of understand I'm probably not going to get into a zoo per se, but other educational programs I might be able to make some type of career out of.
But it does seem that volunteering, you're volunteering right now. I mean, that has to be a staple of, how you get your foot in the door places.
It is. It is. I mean, that's what it is in the animal world. If you want to make a career out of it, which you're not going to get rich in the animal world. And nobody will get rich in the animal world unless you're like a veterinarian, like an exotic vet per se, or a fish vet. Apparently, fish vets are paid a lot.
Really?
I don't understand that. I don't
Well,
do
it
much.
seems hard. You got to do everything
Yeah,
underwater, man. That seems.
exactly. Especially for like a fish vet at an aquarium. I mean, that's like top notch money in the animal world. I don't do it for the money. Most people that are in the animal world don't do it for the money. They do it because they love animals. Um, Yeah, it's a lot of volunteering. So as much volunteering as you can put in, especially if you try and get into a said zoo, work volunteering at said zoo. Go or just other programs like the wildlife ones, or just do your research. You'll find something somewhere.
And where do you hope, as far as where your volunteer work is bringing you now? I mean, what are some of your plans in the future?
Um, just to continue, really. I'm hoping that at least with the rehabbing, I'll get a lot of knowledge down, a lot of education throughout actually hands-on with the animals. That'll help me pass the licensing exam that I'll be taking hopefully next year for my rehabbing license. Because there are rehabbing facilities that hire for a job as a wildlife rehabber. They're far and wide, but I mean, maybe sometime look into that, hopefully as a career in the future. But other than that, the ZooPro, it's a lot of fun. I love the animals that I work with there. It's always a lot of fun. I did recently, a couple weeks ago, did a birthday party for I think the girl just turned 4. So a lot of little kids and a lot of parents that did not know what I brought them. They were like, "What's going on?" But that was a lot of fun. The Bobcat Hunter, he took the show at the end. He's always my big finale. They love him. He just climbs up all around me, and he wants to just jump on the couches and pounce the little kids, which can't do. Wants to pounce and jump on little kids, but we're not gonna do that. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy all the people that I have met through all the volunteering experience that I do. I see them. I'm closer to them than a lot of my extended family and some of my friends. So I mean, they're all family to me. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
And then what are kind of your future plans with the herp collection that you have going on?
To hopefully use, I mean, this is it's a hobby as much as I want to use them for education, maybe through the Kentucky Herp Society. Um, I know when I get settled in, I have a better job, a more consistent job. Maybe take up the VP of that. My friend Jordan is actually taking presidency of that come the new year. So maybe take VP and just do the education, because that'll be a program that we do have active memberships for, and we get money in because we do field trips out to different places and stuff like that. So
Is the herp society there? Is it a long-standing herp society?
it's been around at least 15 to 20 years is what I want to say. Though as of the past 3 or 4 years, it's kind of gone down. The current president it has been fighting cancer for a while. He's a fighter. He's got family, and he just recently moved to Tennessee. That's where his chemotherapy is. So he just can't do it anymore. He's a great guy. We do have other members in there that are um, they're kind of crude, and they kind of feel entitled because they've been there so long. They should be higher up in it, but we're trying to get new people in, yes, a younger crowd in. But it's hard to do when these older guys are kind of crude humor and stuff. They're old humor. It's just like, stop talking.
Get that.
Yeah, so we're working on.
Are you deep into the hobbyist world of reptiles? Are you in the Facebook groups? Are you doing this in are you deep into it?
I would say, yeah. I've been in the hobby for 9 years now, and what I want to focus on, especially when I get a house and large enclosures built, I want to focus more on the large lizards. I like to call the big three, which are the monitors, tegus, and iguanas. Though I'm not really big on iguanas. I like my terrestrials. So I love tegus. One of my dream reptiles was an Argentine are black and white. So I'm like, yay, got one now. I'm so happy. And I love the monitors. They're so intelligent, and like Vega, my Savannah monitor, being even a small to mid-sized monitor lizard, she knows my face. She knows when I'm here, when I'm about to feed her. She comes out and says hi and stuff. She's very personable. And I like the fact that I can educate and say, you get this type of reptile who's really social, who's sweet and docile. Because most people who have these large lizards, they're very temperamental. And I like to say, hey, they're not always like that. You just have to put the hard work into it.
And do you have any interest in going beyond, savannas, say that next level, the water monitor, or if you were so brave, maybe a croc monitor or something like that?
My end goal would be a black throat,
Okay.
or a roughneck. Those are my two like big hulky monitors I really want real bad. But that's an end game. I want to have a place. I want to have funds. I want to have the room for it. I understand, a lot of people, they go into reptiles, and it's really easy to get into a hoarding position when you have reptiles. I know, I'm like, I don't want to do that, because if you get too many, not enough room, you're going to forget to feed, you're going to forget to clean, and I just don't want to do that. I understand the amount of time I have is good enough for what I have right now.
And that especially happens with like the social media stuff where people get kind of into creating these videos of them like unboxing animals, which we have plenty of videos of me unboxing animals, but I didn't buy them to make a video about unboxing animals.
Yeah.
But you get caught into, I
want to show
YouTubers now have Cyclora, so I get Cyclora. I get a giant iguana just to, put it because people like that, and I'm gonna have a retic because YouTubers have that. I'm gonna have an anaconda, and you gotta like hit all the bases, right?
Definitely. So I don't know. I have what I have, and I enjoy all these guys, and I love using them to educate. And I know my boundaries. I know what I'm good at, and when I still have to like learn. So,
not to self-promote, but you should definitely, anyone who's into monitors should check out our podcast with Corey Amar. Is that how you pronounce his last name? And just listening to the enclosures and the amount of time he spent on his facility for his monitors.
$150 monitor cage, or 150,000. Sorry,
150 really cheap monitor cage.
150,000.
Impressive.
It's insane. Just the amount he's worked with them, and it was a good podcast just to see all that.
Or
goes
Brittany
into
K
it.
also works with monitors and stuff like that, but just amazing animals that you want to see taken care of correctly so that we can maintain the right to have amazing animals.
Definitely.
They won't go the way of the 100% wolf that I can't have in my living room. Damn it. As far as where people can get in touch with you, Tony, where can they find you?
My Instagram, they can see this little thing right here, right?
Yes, but there's the audio version won't be able to see it. So
Okay, so Instagram is Tony's Tails and Scales. It's the same as my TikTok. It's all spaced off by the little underscores. You can find my Facebook, Toney Seiler. I'm sure you'll probably type it up, my name at the end here and everything like that. Just hit me up in the DMs. That's great. If you got questions for wolves, for reptile husbandry, for any local, native species, anything that you'll find in your backyard, I probably know something about, not the birds, but everything else that's on the ground.
For sure. And we're going to make Ryan Cox come play with the wolves.
Yes, we're going to have to.
Since we have a friend in the area, we need to bring someone out just to play with wolves.
Yeah, come visit me there. I'm always there. I mean, definitely hit me up before you come, just so I know I'm there. And hopefully I'll be leading your guys' enclosure interaction and everything.
Yes. Well, if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Port City Pythons on Instagram, Port City Pythons on Facebook and YouTube. And the website is portcitypythons.com. Tony, thanks again for coming on. This was so enlightening. So many things I never thought I'd get to talk about and learn about, and definitely maybe one day go and see. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun. I love this.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. And for everyone else, thank you guys so much for listening. I would love it if you guys could go and tell a friend about this podcast, someone who loves animals or herps or conservation in general. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will catch you guys next week.